very much for coming. We certainly appreciate you all being here this evening. This is another opportunity for the Dorcheat Historical Association and Museum to try to bring back some of our history and to preserve our history, which is the mission of the museum. After the meeting, we hope that you will all take time to go down to the museum and see what progress has been made. We're not there yet, but we've come a very long way. You'll know that we're really going to have something wonderful. This is, of course, just one of a series of talks that we had. Frank Griffith did a wonderful job a month ago, and of course Marcus is going to do another wonderful job this evening. We plan to have many other talks, and if you want to have suggestions, if you want to talk yourself, you can probably get the opportunity there. But we might talk about schools or railroad workers or African American history or the Storm of 33 or early residents. It's just sort of innumerable things that we could talk about. In regard to the museum, a lot has been going on. It just involved painting. We've got all our cabinets in finally, and Richard Baker has been so kind to see that those cabinets got painted. He didn't do it himself, fortunately, but we appreciate that, Richard. Of course, it's very important for the museum to have enough money to operate on, and so many of you have made donations to the museum in the past, and of course, I've always thought that those that gave before are the ones most likely to give again this year. So we hope you will do that, and those of you that have not made contributions, we hope that you will participate financially there. There are some letters on the table. I think Schelley's going to talk to you about that. So thank you very much for coming. I certainly hope that you will enjoy Marcus this evening and participate in many museum activities in the future. Schelley, you come, say you a few words, please.
He's warning me.
We're lucky to have Schelley, by the way.
I'm just not a person of few words, I guess. I do want to thank all of you for coming tonight. This is our, as Dad said, our second event. And I think we have a totally different crowd than what we had last time, so I'm very pleased to see all of you. One of my main goals is fundraising, so before you leave tonight, please pick up a pledge card. I have them on the table over there where you signed in. Also, where you're sitting, there's a card for door prize. We're going to give away a really nice basket after Marcus is finished. So if you would, please fill out that door prize and just pass it down and try to get it in this hopper over here on the stage. If you'll just pass it down and hold your hand, we'll pick them up. Also on the table, and at the end of each row, we have a volunteer sheet. This is probably one of the most important things other than the pledge cards that we've got out tonight. There's several different things that you can volunteer for, and I have kind of outlined what they are. Dad said I shouldn't have done that, but I said nobody's going to sign up unless they know what they're signing up for. So if you would look at those and kind of pass them down and make sure you may not can actually do that, but you may own a company that does drywall or painting or various things. You may be good at grant writing. You may be good at fundraising. We need lots of help, and this is an opportunity to sign up. It's not a, I've got to do it if I put my name on this sheet of paper. We'll just call you and say, are you available to do this? But we will, that way we'll have a database of volunteers. Also, we have several things over here on the table that are for sale. We have the Dorcheat cookbook for $15. If you don't have one of those, please pick one up before you leave. We also have the DVD Frank Griffith's speech from last time, and those are $10. We have for sale for $15, it's a double CD of the Civil War grave dedication that was March 29th. If you didn't get a chance to go, you'll actually be able to see that whole thing. Channel 12 came out and filmed it, and it's a very neat thing to see and participate in. Another thing that you'll see that's really got nothing to do with the museum is the St. Jude Car Show. That's kind of my baby, and it's May 3rd, so if you're in town, please try to come out. This will be the 5th annual. So far, we've given $55,000 to St. Jude with the car show. I expect about 300 cars. If you like Elvis and you like Mike Spillers, try to be there at 2 o'clock because he'll be doing his Elvis performance, and he's very, very good. But anyway, that's the things that I have for sale over there tonight, so please pick up some things, but most importantly, fill out your volunteer sheet and pick up a pledge card. We need those pledges. Let me flip over. When I talked to Marcus about doing this, you know, we started talking about the different wars, and to me, you know, all wars are terrible. Most of us that were born in the United States have people that fought on either the North or the South. Most of us are all proud of our heritage, whether it is the North or the South. I myself have people that fought with David Crockett at the Alamo. So tonight is not really about the North or the South. It's about preserving our history and remembering our history. This past week I went to a high school and just talking about the museum, and I was shocked. There are kids that are 17 years old that have no idea what the Holocaust is. They do not know very much about World War II. They know even less about the war between the states. Being a museum, I guess it's our obligation to tell history, whether it's controversial, not pleasant, it's history. We can't change it. You can't sweep things like that under the rug. Our goal is to teach it so that it doesn't happen again. So, you know, that was a real eye-opening experience for me to know that there were people that had no idea about the Holocaust. You know, I mentioned reading the Diary of Anne Frank. I know kids probably won't read, so I told them to go read Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. You know, that's probably about as close to learning about it as they may come. But anyway, I hope all of you will fill out your cards tonight. And like I said, just hold up your hand and we'll get those and put them in. But we're going to draw as soon as Marcus is through talking. And then after that, we're also going to take a tour of the museum. We've had a lot of changes just in a month. So we want you to be sure to see those. I know a lot of you didn't even get to see them last month. So you're really, really going to be surprised. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for tonight, Mr. Marcus Wren.
You know, I'm like Frank, wow. Frank did such a good job last month and did a great job. And I just said something to Schelley about that, you know, and so she said, well, how about you talking next time? So, you know me, I put my foot in my mouth. I said, I'll do that. I would first like to start off this, but you know, we are strictly history. And like Schelley says, that, you know, so many of the young people don't know much about history. But 74 years ago, the Minden Tribune and the Spring Hill Journal put out the Centennial Historical Edition, December the 31st, 1934. When the museum first got started, my wife was the president. I was about 30 years ago. Well, she reprinted this. And this is a great history of Webster Parish and Minden. We printed a lot of copies of it and we got them. And you can pick up one of these at the museum for $10. I think you'd be amazed at how much is in there. It tells about, I think Andrews Motors had a car, and the price in here is about $700. It's really fascinating. That's a good thing to have at home and get your kids to look at it and see that. But anyway, I've been involved in the museum for about 30 years and I'm proud of it. And I'd like to start off by saying, We've had a lot of us have been president of it and other things at it. But when we got Thad Andrews as the president of it, Thad just said, we're going to do it, we'll start now. I said, where are you going to get the money? Don't worry about that, we'll get it. And so he came, some of us said, I want $10,000 from you, and $10,000 from you. And that's how he got it. He twisted our arm and made us put up some money. Some big money's been put up to guess what we are. We started out with nothing, and we got over $200,000 worth of stuff down there right now that's paid for. But when, you know, nowadays times you can't buy an apple for $1 almost. So things are happening. We do need some real help on this, and we appreciate what he's done. I was in church Sunday and couldn't help but think, you know, we go to church and Sunday school almost every week, and we go to get a history lesson. That's what the Bible is. The Bible is history. And you know, I think history is extremely important. Not only the Bible is important, but what our forefathers did for us. And it's great. I'm going to start, really, and go back over 200 years ago with my family. My great-grandfather was born, and my sister back here was born in 1802. She wasn't born. My sister and I, my great-grandfather was born in 1802. I'm almost that old, and not quite. Anyway, I'm glad we got a good lesson. I'm not very funny, but anyway, that's good. Anyway, he was born in 1802 and married my great-grandmother, and when she was 15 years old, and they moved to Webster Parish by covered wagon in 1846. It was still Claiborne Parish at that time. In fact, it wasn't Webster Parish till 1871. But anyway, my great-grandfather moved here, and how come I happen to be in Webster Parish is because when he got to Dorcheat, he liked what he saw. And he ended up acquiring over 400 acres of land down here on Dorcheat so he could ship his cotton out every fall to New Orleans. And so he stopped and bought 400 acres of land down here, this side of Sibley, where the industrial park is right now. In fact, the family the George Washington Wren Cemetery is down there right now. And you can just drive down the road, don't even have to get out of your car. When you turn on the industrial park, go down there, and we've restored it, put a new tombstone, and put a fence around it. Of course, storm blew a tree across of it and had to put it back up again. But anyway, I'm proud of my ancestry, and I know you're proud of your ancestry.
Yes, I am.
But in fact, I mow that cemetery twice a year of my great-grandfather because I appreciate what he did for me to get started in this area. And anyway, he came here and raised a family. And he had his sons, and my grandfather was one of his sons, and he was G.L.P. Wren, George Lovick Pierce Wren. What a habit. But anyway, he came here, and then he and a brother back to Emory University in 1855 to get a college education. And those two went back to Emory and stayed for 4 years and never came home again because they didn't have any way but to walk or ride a wagon or something. But they stayed for 4 years, and that 4 years' time, my grandpa got 3 college degrees. I've got the diplomas in my house on those. I started bringing them, and you that didn't happen. You couldn't, like me, you couldn't read them anyway. But he got 1 degree in education. He got a master's in education, and he got a law degree. But anyway, he came back home and couldn't make a living in law, and he likes teaching. He went teaching school. He went up to Homer. He went up to Arizona, or until Billy. He taught up in Arizona before the Civil War. And when the Civil War came along, he joined the Minden Blues. They called it the Minden Blues. Now, I really don't know why they called it the Minden Blues, but it was really men from Claiborne Parish at the time. Claiborne became Webster and then also Minden Parish. But anyway, they had over 100 men, and I have a roster of them. I don't know how accurate it is, but it told most of them was a farmer in Minden, a farmer in Athens, or in Homer, or somewhere else. But anyway, over 100 went to the Civil War. And I'm proud to say that, before I forget about it, my grandpa was one of 17 of over 100 that went to the Civil War that came back to Minden, Louisiana. He said, in fact, he said when he was over, by the grace of God, only he survived the Civil War. He was in a lot of big, big battles. In fact, they joined in 1961. They joined and got on a steamboat and went to New Orleans and got into the Louisiana 8th Infantry and fought in the Louisiana 8th Infantry. And within a month's time, they were in Virginia and fought. My grandfather fought at the Battle of Bull Run. There were 2 battles at Bull Run, and my grandfather fought in both of them. In fact, Gay and I were there a few years ago, and I went up there to the desk of the museum there, and I said, my grandfather fought up here, and I'd like to get a little information on him. She said, you mean your great-grandfather? I said, no, my daddy's daddy fought in the Civil War. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, oh, my granddaddy fought the Civil War too, and he got that. They said, no, that was my great-granddaddy. But my grandpa was 33 when he got married, and my daddy was 44 when he got married, so we skipped a generation or 2 there. But I'd like to say also that I've got 2 granddaughters right over here that are 6th Wren generation that are in school at Webster Parish right now. So we've got 6 generations of Wren who come and go to school at Webster Parish. I'm proud of that fact. In fact, anyway, we've got some deep roots in Webster Parish. My wife and her family, the Stewarts, and they got a lot of deep roots in this parish. And I know a lot of you got roots here like that. But anyway, when grandfather went to the Civil War, within 1 month's time, I guess they rode a train up to Virginia. That's how the only way they could get up there in a month's time is a few trains. But he fought in the Battle of Bull Run, which was in Manassas. You know, I found out that most of the battles in the Civil War were named after a town or a stream of water close to it. And Bull Run was a stream in Manassas, Virginia. And they named it Battle of Bull Run. But anyway, this girl in the museum said, oh yeah, looked it up. Said, yeah, he fought with the Louisiana 8th Infantry. In fact, said he fought in both battles here. In fact, she called over a uniformed man guard there, and she said, here, take Mr. Wren and show him where his grandfather fought. And he took us over, and we went through the battle and so forth, that also. But anyway, he fought he fought nearly all of his fighting was in Virginia. And they were really fighting to try to whip the Northerners, the Yankees up there, and almost to try to capture Washington, D.C. But of course, they never were able to do that. But he fought under General Lee, and then also he fought with Stonewall Jackson. And while he was having an education, he had a diary. He was in prison for a good while. Back when the war, he was wounded twice and captured twice. And when he was in prison, he wrote a diary. And in his diary, he wrote, one day he wrote, what a tragic day this has been. Our beloved General Jackson was shot by our own men. And he was shot by mistake by his own man. But somebody asked me a while ago, where did the men get the blues, you know? They're supposed to be the rebels that are supposed to have the graves on. But somebody dyed their uniforms with indigo. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, and there were blue uniforms. They started out with blue uniforms. But in the very first battle, they were shot at by some of the other Confederate soldiers, and friend, they changed those blue uniforms pretty fast. But you know, uniforms were a real problem in that. He wrote about the uniforms they had, and a lot of those fellows were barefooted. They didn't have any shoes. And they had the uniforms. Uniforms made, the South was so poor, they made the uniforms out of curtains and toe sags and even wallpaper. And sometime in the rain, the uniforms would all melt and fall off of them. But they really, really had that thing. There's a book, The Battle of, oh gosh, I go blank, you know. Anyway, the Battle of, I got it here just a minute. But anyway, they fought up there. They won one battle. And it rained the night before. And their powder got wet. The powder got wet and the guns wouldn't fire. And they started fighting hand to hand with bandits and hand with that. And my grandfather wrote that it was a terrible day. We had 3 men of our company came out of that unscathed. 3 men that came out unscathed. And it was a terrible battle. They fought in a battle of, well, maybe I'll think of it in a minute. Now that's pretty poor. But anyway, there was, what day? Antietam. In the Battle of Antietam, there were 22,000 men killed one day. 22,000. You know, back then, they just marched forward like this. They'd mow down just like shooting cows around the pasture. And he said, that Grandpa said he came out wounded in that, but he came out and said, by the grace of God, I came through this alive. But a lot of them died from being wounded and didn't have very much treatment. And a lot of the local women acted as nurses and would treat the prisoners when they were, treat the wounded when they came out wounded. But the battles were so fierce and so bad, they'd be laying on the ground just in piles, dead and moaning and going on and shot the arms off, legs off. I read of one soldier that was coming and was using 2 guns for crutches to walk, because one leg was shut off and he was using 2 guns to walk on. That was a terrible battle. It's, of course, like one of the generals said, war is hell. War is hell. I'd like to make one statement. I was in World War II, and I got in one situation where we were so close to the enemy, we were throwing hand grenades back and forth at each other. You know, that's pretty close, about as far as from there. But they were hand to hand with bandits, shooting each other and killing each other, and killing them by thousands. America lost 1 million people in that war. Over 1 million people in that war. And way more people were killed in the Civil War than were killed in any other war we've had. I believe in World War I it was like 170-some thousand. In World War II it was like 500-some thousand. And the Civil War was over 1 million killed. And this is 1 million Americans killed in that battle. But it was really a tragic situation. And it's really history that I think that we don't need to forget. And I'm proud of the fact that my grandfather was in that battle and went. And I'm proud of the fact that he went and stayed, and he was, when he came back, when the war was over, was out of the over 100 left, only 17 of them returned to Minden. Now a lot of them, not a lot, but a lot of the soldiers back then deserted. You know, in the battle so bad, they just walked off and left. They left it. They didn't fight. And they didn't have any way to control them back then. It was a volunteer war. They did start trying to draft them and draft some of them. In fact, they drafted them and paid them $18 a month to fight. And some of them would sign up and then leave and come back and on another name sign up again. But $18 was a lot of money. But anyway, my grandfather, he came back when the war was over, and he was in prison in Delaware. And he walked back. Now, I don't know if he walked every foot of the way or how he got, but all I know is my grandmother, who I knew for 14 years of my life, said that he walked home. But anyway, and with not much shoes or nothing else, you know, that's a pretty long walk. We talk about somebody walking from Shreveport to Baton Rouge, a long walk. That's not very far when you compare it to Delaware back to Minden, Louisiana. But anyway, when my grandfather came back home, they hired him to go to teaching up in Pine Grove, or then it was Butler Schoolhouse, just above my house up there. And he was known as an outstanding teacher, and people from long way around would send their kids over to room with somebody close here to go to school under him. And he taught for over 20 years up at Pine Grove. And while he was teaching up there, he married my grandmother in 1869. In 1869, he bought the land where Gay and I live at right now. And we got a sign up that said Wren II established 1869, and that's been in our family since 1869. And I understand he bought that land for $1 an acre, which then $1 was hard to come by. You know, you didn't get $1 very often. But anyway, he married my grandmother and raised his family there, and right there. And so, but nobody's ever lived on that spot. So my grandparents, again, I and our kids and our aunts and uncles on that spot. But anyway, he stayed there, and then after he started his family, been married a few years, and he had one son named Ernest, who was 3 years old. And Ernest came up missing one day, little old toddler, little old golden-haired boy, blonde boy. He came up missing. And he started looking for him, hunting around the neighbors, and couldn't find him. And he got a posse and started looking for him. And he finally found him in a ditch with a pine top thrown over the top of him. Was beaten to death, the pine knot laying right there that killed him with. And man, the crowd got around and they got to investigating, and they found a black boy who had bloody clothes on. And they asked him about that. And he said, yes, and he made me mad, and I killed him. So they got a rope, and they put a rope, and my grandmother told about this, on a tree out in front of my house. They put a rope over a limb. They said, we'll go hang him, we'll go shoot him, we'll go hang him. And my grandpa got the black boy and got him in his buggy and says, friends and neighbors, my heart is broken, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate your sympathy. But we're going to turn him over to the sheriff and give him a proper trial. You know, it takes a pretty big person to fight a war like that and to be able to do that. And Grandpa really made a name for himself out of that. And then he ran in 18, John gave me the figures the other day, and he ran for state legislature in the 1880s and elected 2 terms as state representative and 1 term as the state senator. And while he was a state senator, while he was in the legislature, at the time Governor Foster's grandfather, the former Governor Foster here was 2 terms back, his grandfather was the governor, and his grandfather ran on the term of beating the lottery that was in the state of Louisiana. And the lottery was real strong then and paid the state a lot of money to run and so forth, and they was come up to do away with the lottery, and a lot of people didn't want to do that, and a lot of them did want to do that. And my grandpa was told if he voted against the lottery, he'd never return to Minden, Louisiana. He said he's sorry, he couldn't help that. He was going, he vote his conviction. And then a few days later, somebody came to his room, knocked on his door, and said, here's $25,000 just to stay away, don't vote. $25,000 was a fortune back then. But Grandpa said, I'm sorry, I can't take it. I made a plan, and I'm not going to do it. I wish we had politicians like that today, you know. Wouldn't it be great? But anyway, my grandpa died. He died in 1901, which is, 107 years ago, because I never knew him. But luckily, my grandmother lived long enough, and I knew my grandmother for a number of years, and she told me a lot of stories. In fact, one of the stories I remember she told me about Grandpa when he was a boy. His daddy would give him, in the fall of the year, ducks would just flock on Dorcheat, just come in droves on Dorcheat. And his daddy would give him 3 shots with his muzzle loader to go down there with 3 shots in a gunny sack, a tow sack, or a feed sack, to go down there and fill it full of ducks for food, bring back for the family. And said Grandpa would, when the ducks would flock in there, boy, he'd shoot them, and with 3 shots, he'd kill a tow sack full of ducks and come back to eat. But that was one of the things that Dorcheat, that's how, I think a lot of Dorcheat and so forth. But anyway, I know you feel like that, and I feel that we owe a big debt to our forebears and our forefathers who came before us and did for us. I think it's a shame sometimes that we don't really appreciate what those have done for us, and what we don't really take time to honor and do it. But anyway, is Mickey Love? Where's Mickey? Is he here? Did he get back?
He's here.
Where are you, Mickey?
He's here.
Come on up here, Mickey. I got one more story I want to tell, and I'm asked Mickey to do something for this, but anyway, during the Civil War, the story is told, and I've heard it's not true, and I've heard it's true. But there was a captain one time on the northern side that one night they had a battle, and back then they were close together. They were real close together. The armies were, north and south. And he heard a wounded soldier moaning and moaning and moaning and moaning. And it got under him, so he finally decided, I've got to do something about that. I've got to go see if I can find out and help that poor soldier. So he crawled across the ground and finally found that soldier and drug him back across the lines on his side. And it was at night, it was dark, and he couldn't tell. And he finally, though, did discover he was a Confederate soldier fighting. And this Confederate soldier, he brought him back. By the time he got him back, he was dead. And he got a lantern and put it on him, and it dawned on him that was his son. His son was fighting in the Confederate War. And found out that his son had gone south to study music. He'd gone south to study music, and he joined the Confederacy while he was in there. And he went and came into battle and came back. And so this captain asked his company commander to have a military funeral for his son. And the captain, he refused it because he was, on the other side. He wouldn't do that. So he said, well, give me one person out of the band to use that. So he said, okay, and he chose a bugler. And the bugler came, and then he asked the bugler, he said, my son, in his pocket of his shirt was some notes that he wrote for him. He wrote a song he wrote. And that song, and the bugler played it, and that song was Taps. And I've asked Mickey to play that in conclusion of our thing, but every time this is played at a military funeral, and it's for the death of a soldier, not just a Civil War soldier, but this is a haunting tune that makes you have pride and dignity and appreciation for those who've gone before us and done the job. And we're going to conclude with Mickey playing the Taps, if you would.
Marcus is a pretty good storyteller, isn't he? I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Please, right now, if you would, fill out those cards because we're going to draw. If you've got your door prize card, or if you didn't get one, who didn't get one, or who didn't get one filled out? Has everybody got them in the hopper? Or need me to pick up one? Did you need one, ma'am? Did you need one? Anybody else need one? You just ask me. If y'all would, if you want to pick up some of the items that I said we have for sale, I'll be standing back there. And then if you would, I think Larry Milford's going to go and unlock the museum, and we'll be open for another hour for y'all to view what we have over there at the museum too. Be sure to get you something to eat if you didn't get a chance before you go also. And I'd like to thank Charlotte Martin. She's the one that prepared all of our stuff. Okay, and I'd also like to thank Dorcheat Financial and Ty Pendergrass for helping us with the refreshments. Thank you, Ty. Everybody got them in? you don't know where the museum is, it's just right around the corner on Pearl Street. We're just, it's easier to go out the front here and just go straight down and you'll see it. Just right there on your right. So please take a tour before you go home tonight. All right, you gonna make my... All right. I'll let you dry, you know, try to dry your own thing. Yeah, that was all by having a fire on me. All right. This is somebody that's known me for a long time, Mr. Rod Gann. Got a little bit of everything.
I'm filming a meeting.
There's $10 worth right there.
It's really 20, Marcus, we got to add inflation onto that newspaper. Those are now 20. They were 10 30 years ago. We went up on those. But please feel free, I'll be right over there. And like I said, get y'all some more refreshments, and then Larry's gonna go run over the museum, and we'll see y'all either here or there. So thank y'all all for coming. Look forward to seeing you next time.